I understand that you've been one of the lead researchers on the JUSTIS project and wanted to get your insights from the field around how the informal sector is participating in just transitions and the opportunities for green entrepreneurship, especially in terms of energy solutions.
Yeah, I think being one of the lead researchers on this energy transition in the informal sector project, the project is an interesting one. You know, there's that feeling you get when you have a stakeholders meeting and all stakeholders are around and they are telling you about what they do, what the challenges are. That is one level. The other level is to find time as a researcher and go to the field and interrogate with people whilst they are working. Look at, observe the field, and then you tend to appreciate more the issues. So being in the field was a very nice experience, interacting with various green entrepreneurs and then informal sector business. You tend to understand the energy need, tend to even know their level of understanding around these whole climate issues. I think it is a very great experience, and there is no better understanding that you can get than to be in the field with the informal sector or be in the field where the real action is happening. So I think it was a very nice experience. For example, I'll talk about one of our research areas, which is Asante region. That is Swami magazine. It is a very big, I call that enclave a city on its own. It is kind of a community with the same kind of informal activities that is happening. And I see it as a future for a test case for any project, anybody who wants to actually understand energy need within the informal sector, to be able to study, and if there is any test we want to do to see how the transition will work. That is a community on its own with a lot of very active activities. So if there is a project to implement or initiate for a just transition, to be a very good place where you enter that enclave and people are busy from morning to dusk. And then also people, there's a lot of money that exchange hands there. It's a busy place, and that is a huge area for study. I would love to be there again and try to explore other factors that relates to just transition.
Thank you, Ferdinand. So perhaps we can go deeper into the types of businesses that are operating, the ones that are using clean energy solutions or that are developing clean energy solutions. Can you give us some examples?
Okay, so basically, clean energy solutions is currently developing or coming up strongly in Ghana, especially having to speak to people on the field who are into converting waste to energy. There is biogas, and then I see some innovative technologies where instead of building the fixed digesters, they try to partner with these polythene producing companies, or let's say this tanks producing company that they mold. They try to produce a tank which serves as a digester and be able to. So it's kind of a ready technology that you go and plant. You can just go and get those accessories and go and plant in your yard, and then you start treating your waste and then generating some methane gas for cooking or for lighting. I think that is a very an innovation, because the traditional knowledge we know or technology we know about biogas is more of building using mortar and concrete and other stuff to build. But if locally green entrepreneurs are trying to innovate around this, trying to make it like any customer that wants bio digestion system can just walk in and just pick a sample, then go and install it. I think these are very nice innovation. We also experienced, we were with Solar Taxi, who are promoting transport using electric vehicles. And one thing so fascinating about their business is they are converting fossil fuel engine motorbikes to solar motorbikes. So this is not going to make any new motorbikes that are solely for electronic. Runs on the batteries, but these are old bikes, so people can just walk in. I have my diesel or my petrol bike. I want you to convert it into an electronic or battery using motor for me, and then they do it right there. And one thing I also experience on the field is that you see a lot of young people who are these technicians, and I also met women there. I think this is something very encouraging for me as a researcher, to see that there's also a kind of a gender perspective that is brought in, trying to role women who are mostly least found in this manufacturing and engineering subsectors.
Thank you. And Ferdinand, from your perspective, what do you think are some of the challenges faced, and how can policy, how can we improve the enabling policy to support green entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So for me, I'll start from the first challenge is the awareness of even the green transition. It is something that is, it's a lot of informal businesses are not aware of even the green transition. They tell you, they've heard of renewable energy, but the global wave of the green transition or energy transition is not well understood by informal business. I think that is the first challenge. If the informal sector is not aware of this, how is he or she able to position he or his business to be able to respond to the challenges? So the first challenge I see is the awareness is not there. The second challenge is policymakers are not engaging them enough because they are left in their own space and they run their own business. When they have any challenge, it's the next person they sort to is to speak to their own colleagues. And I think that is also a big challenge. There's not much of engagement with the policymakers. Meanwhile, this transition is structured in a way that we don't want to leave anybody behind. It is an inclusive one. All sectors, all level of social structure have to be carried around. So I think the second issue I find is there is no much engagement with policymakers. And then the frequent issues of where they are talking about finances, it's difficult for them to access finance. So most of the time they raise their capital from family and friends and some small loans. And I want to also recommend that they are also doing something right when it comes to microfinance. They have various groups that they do what we call in Ghana susu, which is like coming together to form a mini kind of microfinance. We contribute every day, and then when it's a month or a week later, we gather it for one person to invest into his business. So they are also engineering. They are having their own innovative way of raising capital to invest into there. So I think they have the quest to work with financial institutions. It's just that the financial institutions must be able to understand their level and then be able to engage them at that level, not make too much of a cumbersome system for them to apply or source for credit. Those are some major issues I see. And then technologically, there are a lot of people who are still using manual way of manufacturing or manual way of operations. So whilst we are talking about growth or industrialization, there's a need for that skill impact that should give them the leverage to be able to mechanize their operations.